Good afternoon, everyone. My name is David Millette. I'm ExCellThera's CEO. Our mission is to make better cells to provide better lives for patients and their families. There have undoubtedly been plenty of ups and downs in cell and gene therapy in recent times. I hope that this presentation helps you see that the glass is half full. We're a small Canadian company, a small biotech, with less than 20 people and limited resources, and we just received EMA approval for our lead product, Zemcelpro, to treat blood cancers. And we're now preparing to launch commercially in Europe, a major milestone, so hopefully that can show that we can get to that stage without incredible amounts of investments and good science. So I'll take you through our journey. While you look at this slide, I'll just indicate that the dollar amounts in our presentation are in US dollars. So our story began with a world-class team of cell biologists and medicinal chemists out of the University of Montreal who were focused on stem cell research. This incredible team, animated by this powerful mission, led to the discovery of UM171 molecule and the formation of ExCellThera about 10 years ago. So it's been almost a decade, or about a decade, from the discovery of UM171, and since that time, we've treated over 120 patients with severe blood cancer under the auspices of clinical trials in the US, in Europe, and in Canada. Our lead product, Zemcelpro, has been approved by the EMA just a few weeks ago, and we're now getting ready for commercial launch of Zemcelpro. Now let's take a step back and briefly look at the first-in-class mechanism of action of the UM171 molecule. UM171 acts as a molecular glue in the CoREST protein complex. The degradation of the CoREST complex by UM171 upregulates key epigenetic marks which promote stem cell self-renewal and metabolic fitness. As a result of the mechanism of action that we've seen, which is first in class, UM171 has the unique property of expanding and rejuvenating blood stem cells. In the presence of UM171, myeloid-biased cells, or myeloid-biased HSCs, which are mostly present in older cells or in cultured or manipulated cells, which also have a low metabolic state, are upregulated epigenetically. This results in balanced, quiescent HSCs with high reconstitution potential. In practice, for cell and gene therapies, this results in a greater number of HSCs, so more cells, and increased metabolic fitness, so better cells. As a relatively small company, we're highly focused on our lead product, Zemcelpro, and the upcoming commercial launch. However, the broad potential of the UM171 family of molecules have led us to adopt a collaborative and partnership approach in other areas that are not directly competitive to Zemcelpro. This has led us to various out-licenses for the use of UM171 in other applications and indications. To the extent anyone has an interest in using the molecule as an enhancer in their own cell and gene therapy, please don't hesitate to contact us, to contact me. We're reasonably minded and data-driven. Zemcelpro. You may also know Zemcelpro from previous years or previous presentations. As UM171 cell therapy, we now have a brand name, Zemcelpro. The active component in Zemcelpro is under the INN, so the non-proprietary name, dorokubicel, which are the UM171 expanded CD34 plus cells. To be clear, Zemcelpro, and I know 2 presentations before me, the gentleman said that wasn't typically possible, but it's a one-time, curative intent, standalone treatment to treat blood cancers for patients who need an allogeneic stem cell transplants. One and done. So we're so proud of our major milestone that we dedicated a full slide to it. So we received European authorization for Zemcelpro in our first indication. I'll talk a little more about that in a few moments, on August 25th. So Zemcelpro consists of a unique and differentiated graft with over 75% of highly functional UM171 expanded, primitive, and immunomodulatory cells, including a high doses of long-term HSCs, early lymphoid progenitors, NK cells, mast cells, dendritic cells. Zemcelpro has the potential of being a best-in-class therapy for high and very high-risk patients based on its efficacy and safety profile. In addition, it is the only product that can make use of and expand very small volumes of donor cells. Zemcelpro is manufactured in small volumes with a small manufacturing footprint through an efficient and reliable manufacturing process. One slide on our clinical results. On the left, our phase 1/2 clinical data, which suggests higher GVHD and relapse-free survival than all other alternative grafts under the current standard of care, including compared to mobilized peripheral blood in a comparative registry study conducted by CIBMTR and published in Blood Advances last year. On the right, our phase 2 clinical data, which was conducted exclusively with high and very high-risk patients, is just as impressive, with overall survival at 2 years above 68% compared to an expectation of 25% for this patient population with very poor outcomes under the current standard of care. I'm not going to get into numbers too much, but what I want to mention about this slide here is that we're very focused on engaging with the transplant community. Since our first trial back in 2016, we've made it a company priority to engage with physicians and KOLs to develop our program around their needs. And we believe that these collaborations with what is a highly engaged physician and KOL transplant community, obviously coupled with the efficacy and safety profile of Zemcelpro, can lead to rapid adoption in a highly concentrated market around the high-volume transplant centers. Let's dig a little deeper into our first 2 indications. Indication 1 on the left is the indication that was approved recently by the EMA. The indication 2 on the right is the indication for which I've shown you the phase 2 data, for which we have an IND filed with the FDA and with the EMA for a phase 3 trial that we want to launch as soon as possible. So let's start with indication 1 on the left. Although access to stem cell transplant has improved in recent years, we can think of haplotransplants, we can think about mismatch transplants and post-transplant PTCy. So even with these improvements, there remains a subset of patients who are unable to undergo a transplant due to a lack of a suitable donor. Unfortunately, ethnic minorities are overrepresented in this group. Zemcelpro is the only technology that can offer these patients the transplant that they require. So for indication 2 on the right, these are patients that are classified either high or very high blood cancer patients that require an allogeneic stem cell transplant. The reason why they're classified as high or very high risk can be various. Well, let me give you a few examples. Some have cytogenetic abnormalities like TP53 mutations. Others have undergone a first, sometimes 2 transplants and have relapsed and would require yet another transplant. In some centers, these patients are unfortunately currently not treated because of the poor prognosis. Why put them through an allo-HSCT if you're almost certain it will not work? So these patients are responding poorly under the standard of care transplant, and Zemcelpro has the potential to provide them with much better clinical outcomes. Now, switching gears to the patient landscape and market opportunity, we evaluate on the low end of the range that in terms of indication 1, so the no suitable donor patients, that's about 2,000 to 3,000 patients annually. That's both in US and EU, so I don't want to oversimplify, but it's about half in each jurisdiction, so 1,000 to 1,500 patients every year in the US, and the same number in Europe. On the side of the high and very high risk patients, hearing a bit of echo here, that's about, on the low end of the range, 8,000 to 10,000 patients every year. So same logic here, about half of those patients are in the US and the other half are in Europe. We expect that Zemcelpro will be well positioned to address the significant unmet medical need of these patients. So a couple of words on these last 2 slides. Our GMP manufacturing has been inspected and approved by the EMA and Health Canada. Our supply chain is in place. We are ready for global distribution and supply, and we are open to partnerships to accelerate our market access and growth of Zemcelpro. So in summary, Zemcelpro is EMA approved. We are ready for supply and distribution anywhere in the world. This is an attractive market characterized by high value, high unmet need, and niche market centered around key transplant centers. And we are open to partnering to accelerate commercialization. Thank you very much. This concludes my presentation.